To be or not to be? That is the question. While Hamlet meant this in a philosophical sense, writers can interpret it in a much more literal way. The to-be verbs, sometimes known as linking verbs, are among the most commonly used words in written English. Sentences such as these use to-be verbs. Before we go any further, I want to distinguish between to-be verbs serving in their linking function, which we should try to avoid, and in their helping function, which are perfectly okay. Notice in the first sentence here that the word that comes after the are is a noun, models. That means that the verb are is linking the subject of the sentence, students, to the rest of the sentence, models of good behavior. In the second sentence, the word that comes after are is an ing form of a verb known as a participle. The are in this case is helping out the main verb in order to express an action that is ongoing. The students are modeling. But even when to-be verbs are serving as linking verbs, they are not inherently bad or incorrect. But when we overuse them at the expense of more active, engaging verb choices, our writing becomes vague and much less interesting. Take this sentence. Potatoes are the staple food of many cultures. The main verb here is are. Could we replace that with a more active choice? Which other verbs could we directly substitute? How about potatoes served as the staple food? Or potatoes acted as? Sometimes a better choice is to rearrange the sentence to emphasize a different verb. Many cultures rely on potatoes as their staple food. Now, let's try this one. The students are models of good behavior. Let's first pick a more active choice. The students serve as models of good behavior. But there's an even more obvious choice. The noun in the sentence, models, has a verb form, and just by turning this noun into a verb, we have a much stronger, more effective sentence. The students model good behavior. Okay, here's the third example. Frequent thirst is an indication of diabetes. The noun indication also has a verb form, indicate. We can use that. You may also want to add could to a sentence like this just to make it sound a little less definite. Frequent thirst could indicate diabetes. Notice too that in the last examples, that switching the to-be verb to the direct active verb automatically reduced the number of words in the sentence. When writing college application essays, this can be particularly important. Avoiding to-be verbs also helps to steer us away from what is known as the passive voice. Passive voice minimizes or even removes whomever or whatever initiates the action in the sentence. See this example. The announcement of the team's victory was made by school officials on Wednesday. Notice who is initiating the action in this sentence. It's school officials. Let's move them to the front of the sentence. And what did the officials do? They announced. So we get, school officials announced the team's victory on Wednesday. See how this revised version of the sentence is much more direct and active? The third way we can improve the verbs in a sentence is to make them precise. As your vocabulary expands, your collection of verbs will increase. This is another reason reading and learning new words is so important. Just a word of caution. Do not resort to an online thesaurus feature to help find a more precise verb. Unless it's a word that you're familiar with in writing or speaking, you run the risk of using a verb out of its proper context, which can be very embarrassing. Try using the exercise files for some practice using direct, precise, and active verbs.